Hi, welcome to Forgotten Curiosities. I'm Pooja, and I like to make stuff. Weird, wonderful stuff that's just for me. Anything I get really, really obsessed with. And right now, my crafting space doesn't really reflect that at all. It's just chaos, the bad kind. And underneath that chaos, it's kind of bland. I moved a bunch of stuff in there and I've been trying to hodgepodge stuff together, but without a real vision and a plan for how I want it to look in the end. So I am going to fix that. I want that space to be a place I walk into and am wowed by and feel sparked by in a creative way and just am happy to be in because I spend a lot of time in my crafting room. So today I am tackling that project. And since it is a lot of chaos, this is going to be a part one. It's a matter of getting down to the bones and figuring out what I want the space to be and getting it to a place where I can start that transformation. So join me as I make order-ish out of the chaos. Let's get into it. So this is my craft room. I think a lot of this part of it you've seen before in other videos. I have this black chest that holds like different fabric pieces, and then the main portion is muslin, and there's more muslin because I have more than one fit in there. This bag is my project mending bag, things that aren't currently in a wearable state, some other fabric that didn't fit in other places, just random other stuff that I have that I want to put up around the house. These boxes are actually all from my office at work. And then I bought the Caesar Juliet last year for work, and it's been amazing. And I love it, and I would love to use it more at the house as well. Then over here, I've got a bunch of other tool storage. These fabrics are mainly things that are kind of specialty random fabrics, either stuff for upholstery or costume or other random pieces that I've been given that I'm not 100% sure what they are. Then on top of that, I've got tools, a bag full of foam, and more tools in the laundry basket, don't ask. And this Kallax is full of other stuff. So knitting, Dremel, paint, spray paint stuff, hand tools in the little white bin. And then just other little things. I've got all my resin stuff and and then that dresser right now holds other fabric storage, and then the top drawer has patterns and buttons and things. Yes, Salvador? Why are you yelling at me? Why you yell at me? On the top is more just random stuff that I haven't established a good place for. I have a chest freezer back there and a folding chair for work. And so this is my sewing table. I've got my sewing machine and a cover stitch machine. I got it at an amazing discount many years ago. And the thing I liked about this table is that it came with all of these like little mini storage guys, which have turned out to be incredibly useful, but aesthetics leaves a little bit to be desired. It has a little cabinet. Right now, I have 2 chairs in here. I've been using that office chair as my sewing chair mostly for the last however long, and then I was gifted this little work stool that has turned out to be amazing. Like the height of it for me to work at my both the sewing table and at my craft table, kind of like my big workspace. I've got this countertop I bought from IKEA, and it's sitting on top of 2 Kallaxes. that also, this side is mostly like leatherworking stuff and other miscellaneous. There's all my thread and bobbins. I was gifted a larger box to put my threads in, so I would like to actually do that. Some meal packing stuff for my volunteer work. Pattern books and patterns. And even more fabric that didn't fit on the other side, and I'm not actually sure what's in that prime box. On this side, I did like the basics of a fabric organization a long time ago. So I got the little boxes that fit in the Clocks inserts, and each of these has different fabric in it. This one is remnants, and then that's like patterns, and then that's like cabbage. So non-usable remnants on one side, usable on the other. And then I organized those boxes by type. Now, obviously, as you've seen the fabric overflow, the system could use a little bit of work, and I would like to label them not via Post-it. It's just a lot of overflow and chaos in a non-creative, happy way. One thing I am really happy about is I got the shelf from another friend of mine as a gift. Thank you so much. And it has come in handy for like elevating some of my sewing stuff on top of the sewing machine rather than everything being directly behind it. And yes, I do cover up the threads on the cover stitch because otherwise Salvador will eat them, and no one needs that, but most especially Salvador. As you can kind of see, I've got a good amount of space in here. Not a ton of wall space just because of the doors to the backyard and then the door to outside. And then the third wall that my sewing table is against is like that set of windows to the rest of the house. But I want to make better use of the wall space I do have, and also just give it much more of an aesthetic vibe. Thinking about it, doing a lot of research, and knowing my own personality, it feels like artificer workshop, that curio shop where you walk in and you're like, man, I need this. And the person like runs in the back and digs through the stuff because they know exactly where everything is, but it looks like chaos from the outside. I want those vibes. And so step one, as always, is actually getting organized. And then I will get to do all the fun stuff. Okay, so step one, figure out what all is even on top of all of my storage is in progress. I emptied out everything that was on top of that Collax unit to basically on my work table and on top of the freezer. And got rid of the laundry basket, put it to better use. I also got some containers from IKEA, a couple of these clear bins to hold more tool kind of stuff, and a few of these fabric bins that'll fit in the Collax units, and I bought some others that just I haven't assembled yet because I want to work on little bits at a time. And my first order of business is going to be sorting the stuff that's on this table, once again. Good grief, how do I get anything done? And then I'm going to take all the stuff out of this Collax unit and get it organized, sorted into bins. And then the next step. I'm sure there'll be a next step. Oh yeah. I have another cabinet unit I desperately want to bring in here, and we're gonna figure out how to make enough space for it. And that'll be lovely. So far, I've put all the things that belong outside. That includes like tools I have to work in the yard and little things for the garden and a spare hose, all that kind of stuff has gone out. It's actually cleared out a lot of this. I am keeping the batteries in here, the stuff that has integrated batteries or that I use all the time. So all the hand tool stuff is staying. My mini chainsaw that I bought for stubborn ivy and tree, like minor tree trimming kind of things that I can do on my own without hiring somebody to do. That's all gonna stay in here, and I'll find a place for it as we go along. I'm not gonna put like cases inside bigger cases because that doesn't make any sense to me. And then I've got a ton of paint supplies, both from when I painted my kitchen and when I've done other projects, or just inherited a bunch of paint stuff. It's really useful. I want to keep it, but I want to keep it in a better, more organized way. So the grommet maker didn't need to have its own box. I like the look of it. I think it's going to work for the vibe, kind of part machinery, part sewing, part magic vibe that I'm going for in here. So I'm actually going to end up displaying it above the sewing machines. It'll be easy. It's heavy enough that Salvador can't knock it down. Always a plus. So I'm going to repurpose this bin for paint supplies and get on with all this organizing. I'll be happy when I can start like moving things out versus just taking it out and making a bigger mess. Don't ask me why I have so many paint trays. I cannot answer that question. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I keep all of my work gloves inside because the garage, even though I use these mostly outside for the yard work, because I'm terrified of bugs getting in them. So these stay in here where I can be reasonably certain there won't be any surprises waiting for me, as opposed to in the garage where I would be 100% certain that there would be unpleasant surprises waiting for me. Spray stuff. And then another bin for paint. Just in general, non-spray paint. Bought a couple of these tiny starlights. I guess they're not tiny, but maybe, whatever, they're small. So hopefully these will work for all of these. Yes, they do fit. height-wise. So that's good. And those guys. Okay. Pigment will go in there too. Great. Very good. Okay, so the rest of that particular cubby has containers. And my resin stuff, all left over from another project. This is okay. So honestly, I'm not even sure how much of this is left, if I would have enough to make anything else. And I think what's going to end up happening with this, instead of me keeping it, let's look. Yeah. I'm going to put this away for safe disposal. I can go on like Saturdays and drop off stuff. I've got the empty spray paint cans and a couple of other items that need to go to hazardous waste disposal. So these will go for there. I don't want to keep these containers with my paint stuff because I mainly use it for mixing resin and I don't want to cross-contaminate my containers generally. So these will get stored just a little bit better, but separately. And this is all resin working stuff as well. I bought this from Reynolds it's a brush-on coating for 3D printed pieces, or in my case, I needed to seal some masters in order to make a mold out of them. It worked really well. Highly recommend if you have a 3D printer, which I don't, but I did feel like I was able to feel the samples at the store. And it's one of the problems I have with 3D printed objects is the texture. It's got this kind of ridgy feel. If you want to get into 3D printing but have the same issue, you can get this or a product like it, brush it on, and it'll smooth out and also make it a little glossy, which it's a nice look, in my opinion, if that's what you're going for. You could sand it to make it more matte. But yeah, just really easy to work with, really quick cure time. So there's plenty of this left. I barely used any, so I'm going to keep this kit with my spray paints, I think. So many tarps. Can never have too much caulk. So outside of a couple of things I pulled out already, this box is full of the old hardware from my cabinets in my kitchen. When I painted it, I also updated all the hardware because this was not it for me. But I guess I just thought, everything's fine. I guess I was just like, oh, what if all the new stuff doesn't work long term? So I just kept it, which is all well and good, except that was several years ago. So pretty sure I don't need it now. It's still usable. I'm going to see if I can donate it. That'll be the right thing to do. I might keep these guys though. I think these pulls could work on a couple of different pieces that I own already. And I'll just replace the hardware with this and I'll give kind of antique old place vibes. So I'm gonna keep the pulls and ditch the hinges. Oh, donate the hinges.
I wasn't going to keep a bunch of footage of me sorting out cabinet pulls and drawer pulls from hinges, but I realized that this is prime Salvador content, and that's what you're all here for, right? I know that's what I'm here for in my life. So enjoy the beautiful, beautiful Salvador, wondering what the hell I'm doing, and me digging in a box for stuff that you really can't see.
Really interested to see what these look like when I actually clean them up, because right now they're super gross. With the other stuff that needs to leave the abode. Let it be known, I have no clue what I bought these wood screws for. None whatsoever. The nice thing about eye protection like this is that it easily fits over my glasses. So I don't have to like put my contacts in, which I dislike wearing generally, and then put eye protection on over top of those. It's very handy.
If it hasn't become apparent to everyone by now, my main organizational system is put things that seem alike together and then put those things in a box. And then eventually the definition of what should be together expands and expands and expands, and I have to go through the boxes and figure out what's in them.
More gloves.
At this point, it is kind of starting to feel like an archaeological dig of my life, especially this box. I've had it for a really, really long time, and it has also been a really, really long time since I've gone through it. So I'm finding things that I've completely forgotten about, remembering projects that I did that I don't even know where they are anymore. All kinds of fun things.
When I moved in, I replaced all of the cabinet knobs in the house except for the kitchen, which I did later. And then I saved them all in this bag, and I put it in my hardware box and promptly forgot about it for the next several years. I feel like we all have like a hand tool thing, whether it be a bag or a box or whatever, where we put assorted household tools, things that come in handy, things that we needed to do a repair and have a little bit of extra of. I highly recommend you clean it out more often than I have cleaned mine out. So, frog tape used to, I don't know if it still does, come in this really handy container. And I've been using it ever since to keep extra pieces for pieces of furniture or other things that I've bought that have come with like little bits of extras. And the hand tools like the tiny Allen wrenches and all that kind of stuff that goes with them. So I'm going to continue to do that because it's really, really handy. Except for this. This is too big. Kind of feel like I'm at a stopping point for the moment. Doesn't feel like I've done all that much, but I've gotten 5 cubes of the 8 cleared out and almost ready to move on. But Salvador and Frida need their lunch, as do I. So I'm gonna go, eat, and come back and keep working.
After lunch, I put away the last of the tool nonsense and was finally able to get into the cubbies that held more of my crafting stuff. This first one was mainly beads. I think I had mentioned in a past video that I had made a beaded corset, so I had a lot of beads left over from that, and then other beads and accoutrements from cosplay projects from many, many years ago. So I sorted through that and kept what I thought I could actually use for a variety of different projects and put everything else in the donate or trash piles. Also, in this cubby were some stamps. I had gotten a variety of stamps in order to make a specific costume piece for a tabletop role-playing game that I was in called Mekong. It was really, really fun. It was Southeast Asian space opera in mechs. As all great space operas need to have mechs, obviously. If you want to watch that, you can check it out on Queen's Court Games. I also have a bunch of foam pads for blocking knitting projects. I obviously haven't used these. I've got some other ones that are already in the box that I have used for smaller things, but I knew that when I started the cardigan project that I would need more squares, and this just came in a set of many. And it seemed good for future-proofing my blocking needs.
Literally can't tell you the last time the Kallax was empty. So for these fabrics, mainly costume, upholstery, like really, really specialty stuff, I don't use it that often. Like, I'm much less likely to reach for any of that than I am for any of the stuff that I've stored below my work table. So I'm gonna put them in one of the bedroom closets. I think it'll just open up some more space in here, and I'll label them so that I know what they are. This particular bin is full of like scrap fabrics from other stuff, like apparel. And I really need to look at this and see if it's stuff that I have a use for. Like, am I going to make that little summertime quilt situation out of these, or are there enough fabrics that would work? Do I have actual projects that I can think of that would use them? If so, okay, I'll keep that, and if not, I'll get rid of it. And that should free up some more space from there. Possibly just instead of having a bag of, instead of having this whole bag of mending, I'm going to have just Contigo that'll be easier to get stuff in and out of and see what still has to be done. Yay. Maybe not. I am attached to that tote bag for no good reason. So I'm gonna clean this guy off and stand it up, see how much space I have left, see if my measurements were correct or not. Hopefully get that cabinet moved in here and move all of these guys out. It is the next day, and I have gotten quite a bit done since then. I changed my plan a little bit for where this cabinet was going to go, just because of the size of it and how much clearance I would have. So I moved the shorter storage piece over to next to the freezers. You can see, moved that over, and then brought in this glorious, glorious cabinet. It was given to me a long time ago by a friend who I love dearly, and it's been in one of the bedrooms, but my bedrooms are kind of small, so it was kind of overpowering the space and not used and loved to its best capacity. So I went ahead and moved it in. It's such a fantastic piece of furniture. It's got this fun storage down at the bottom here, so I can have secrets stored in there. A couple of drawers. And it's just, I think that it's an amazing piece in general, and really is going to give me such an awesome thing to build decorations around. in here as I put in new pieces. I moved the collapse, stood it up, moved it over here. But one of the other things that I have done very recently is gotten a cabinet with some doors. And right now my plan is to take the collapse out and put that where it is because it'll just be much more aesthetically pleasing and I can distribute the stuff that is in here to other spaces. Once I do that, some of it'll go in the cabinet, some of it'll go elsewhere, but I'm just so happy with this layout. Hi, baby. So I've still got this side of my under table storage to deal with. I'm going to break out the other set of boxes and get that sorted and also deal with the mess that I have made of this side of the room while I was getting the other stuff done. And then I think the organizational part will be done and I will be able to get onto the fun part, which is decorating. One of the fun things that I found while I was cleaning up, which I remembered that I had mostly behind that low storage, was this corkboard. I covered it in fabric a long time ago and I used to have like a bunch of photos and stuff on here, but unfortunately it was within Frida distance and she kind of decided to start using it as a scratching post. So in order to save the pictures, I moved them and then I took the board down and just kind of hadn't figured out where I wanted it. But now that I've opened up this kind of space on the fun kind of barn wall, I think I'll put it up there and use it as an inspiration board and just notes to myself and all kinds of other stuff. So I'm really excited about that. But first, before that, I do need to finish going through and fixing the stuff on the other side of this collapse under my work table.
This side of my under table storage has the vast majority of crafting supplies that I use on a regular basis. I tackled the leatherworking supplies first, and using a few little boxes that I had from work last year, I just thought it would be a much nicer way to store all of these dyes rather than just in a 99-cent store bag. Rest in peace, 99-cent store. You were wonderful. I also think this is hilarious. I had this little tote bag. Apparently boxes and tote bags are the way I store everything. And it was like a clown car in there. Every time I thought, like, I must be getting to the bottom, there was more stuff underneath it. So emptied that out, got it all arranged in some fashion that made sense to me at the time. I didn't take stuff out of the individual bags, both because it is really, really easy when they're in the bags with labels on them to be able to tell at a glance what it is. And also a lot of the leatherworking tools are sharp. So when I was digging around in the box later, trying to find a specific thing, I didn't want to constantly be cutting myself. I have so much thread, and the vast majority of it has been stored in the bags I got it from. I generally, when it comes to online ordering of thread, I'll get it from Wawak, and they are slightly larger spools of thread than you would get at a regular craft store. And so I hadn't been able to put it, I had a couple of smaller boxes that I put my normal spools in, but this box finally allowed me to take all of my Wawak spools and arrange them in a way that I could actually see where they were. I think it says something about my taste that I have just this many black spools of thread rather than any other color. I was also trying to make sure I put them in the box in such a way that I could easily see what weight they were, because I have, some heavyweight top stitching thread, some more all-purpose thread, and then arrange them by color, not so much like rainbow or color wheel, but just by mood, solely mood. I've had this shelf from IKEA for a really long time. I think originally I bought it to use as like a keyboard stand when I had a different desk set up. And so it's just been hanging around the house since I changed setups from that. And one of the things I'm really looking to do in the space is utilize more height. And I thought that this would be the perfect start to that. I've got it already easily attached to the shelf. It's pretty stable. And that way I could, add some more decorative elements to my workspace and also make things that I use at the sewing table more accessible. I think it's incredibly convenient, if not essential, to have my manuals standing by, both for my sewing machine and my cover stitch. It just makes it so easy to look stuff up instead of having to constantly look up the manual online or try to find some random post about how to do something on the machine that I can't remember. It was such a mistake to try to put this spool holder together on camera. I think had it not had so many small fiddly pieces, had it gone together more easily, maybe it would have been fine. But also I had to stack everything behind my sewing machine because I didn't want to reposition the camera again. And I'm going to save us both the frustration of watching this and fade out. The next time you see this craft room, it will be the reveal.
And here we have it. I don't think my craft room has ever been this organized before, and I'm not putting any bets on it staying that way for very long. But in the meantime, I'm super, super happy with finding places for things and having the items, like all the crafting supplies and fabrics and all of that, just not out waiting to be ruined from some reason or another. Currently, I've still got my little Post-its on this side, and the interior of my cabinet has a bunch of stuff that's mostly like camera gear. It's That's where I ended up putting the batteries. The Contico fabric that I had left after I figured out what I wanted to do with all those pieces, and that's where the extra muslin is. I don't know that it's gonna stay this way, but for now, I'm happy with having that stuff in the closet. Now that I've got mostly a clean slate in here, I have a lot of ideas of things I want to do to really get it decorated into a way that sparks creativity, not just for things I can do in this room, but projects in general. I talked a little bit before about wanting to trade out the Kallax for something else. I have gotten the cabinet. It's in the garage waiting for a glow up. So that'll definitely be happening. I thought about putting up the corkboard as is, but I think what's actually gonna happen is I'm gonna recover it and give it a fresh look. So yes, there's the ironing board in a much less precarious place than it was before. I also ordered some window film. So I'll be covering my sliding glass doors that go out to the backyard, giving me like a less intense light situation than I normally have in here. And also, hopefully at night, Salvador and Frida won't start slap fights with their reflection in the glass, which happens way, way too often. I will say that I'm glad I bought this thing because I want to be able to use the cones of thread I have. I've got some really fun ones from Wawak and just like different places that I've picked them up before. But this guy, this spool holder is like, no idea how this is actually supposed to stay in. And I'm probably gonna end up hot gluing it. But that's a project for a less frustrated Pooja rather than today. Also on the docket eventually is to make a cover for my cover stitch machine so that it doesn't need to have random old Nightmare Before Christmas cover, and just to keep it better and less dusty and all of that stuff. Another plan I've got, kind of semi-formed so far, is I'm gonna take the things from these little containers, put them up on the wall somehow, whether that be a pegboard with some wire baskets or shelving units. I'm not sure yet, but I want to bring things up more onto the walls. Since we've got these beams that are relatively easy to attach to, I want to make the best use of that as I can. And of course, we've got the Pro Lift stool, my favorite little guy, that I'm definitely going to recover that seat. So none of these boxes are labeled. And currently I remember what I put in all of them, but that's not going to last. And so I've had these little cards for a while now just in my stash of stuff. And so I'm gonna make little label cards and attach them to the outsides of all of those boxes, both for my fabrics on the other side and everything else that I've got in here. Should make it easier and everything just a little bit faster to go through. But I'm calling it a day for now. Tune back in next time to see the next stage of transformation for this room. And thank you so much for watching. Say goodbye to the people, Salvador.